I'm taking the team total. I'm taking first quarter, first half, full game, taking it all. OU all the way. I lost so much money on OU.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. Cast starts from all crazy.
And they run through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
What is up, and welcome to not another CFB pod weekend review. We're looking at week 15 NFL. We're getting way down there in weeks, man. We're looking at the first part of bowl season there for college football too. It was an unbelievable weekend. Beast and I were talking off camera. Both of us big winners this weekend. Nothing but winners for you guys. The most important time of year. We're getting winners on the board. How we feeling, Coda Capper Beast?
Dude, we're feeling awesome. You're spot on. We're firing all weekend last Saturday and Sunday for that matter.
Saturday, Sunday.
We got some plays going right now on Monday Night Football. Obviously, they're live, so hopefully we get some winners there. But it was a good weekend for betting. It was a good weekend for the Lions. That victory Monday is kind of hitting a little different for me these days, man. Lions 6-1 their last 7. I'm feeling pretty good right now, man.
One of the hottest teams in football, and we're not going to talk about the Cowboys. They lost. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. It's a heck of a game. But yeah, the NFL plays were hitting. The college bowls are hitting. You can't ask for much more than that. That's as good as it gets as far as we're concerned here on the show. So we've got a big show for you. What we're going to do is we're going to review this weekend. We're going to talk college football, NFL football, kind of give you a little bit of some playoff, ideas going into this next weekend. And then we're going to preview a handful of bowls as well, kind of these midweek games before the next episode drops for you guys, which will be a big one. So, let's get right into it. Before we start, though, I want to get a word in from our sponsor. The BetCoda Sportsbook is a South Dakota owned and operated sportsbook located in the Midnight Star Casino in Deadwood, South Dakota, serving customers in the state. As you enter the Midnight Star, you are swept into the past with the grand staircase, stunning woodwork, and the elegance of the chandelier. They offer the best lines in Deadwood, so stop by and mention the Coda Sports Gambling Network to receive a free BetCoda t-shirt. Play responsibly. Must be 21 years or older to wager. Gambling problems or concerns? Call 1-800-522-4700. Now, we did have a handful of bowls. None of them were the most insane bowl matchups. I'll be the first to tell you that. But still, it was bowls. It was bowl season. Like we already said, our bowl picks so far have been good, man. So this was a good start to bowl season.
Yeah, it was. I think there was some okay games, but you're right. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily like the prime bowls.
This was the warm-up.
We had like the Bahamas Bowl, and we had a couple other bowls that like you probably can't even think of the name of,
Right.
But there were still some fun matchups, and obviously, like from a betting perspective, we had a lot on the line. So I was happy with how it went.
I should mention one of the first games we're going to talk about was that Cure Bowl between two top 25 teams. It was UTSA and Troy. I had the over 64.5.
Yeah.
The game final was Troy 18, UTSA 12. Never was I even close to this over. But I mean, both these teams played this out like you would kind of expect two top 25 teams in a big time bowl. UTSA has never won a bowl as a program. Troy, this is one of their best years in many years, so they want to cap it off right. This kind of felt like a New Year's Six bowl in a way where both teams didn't want to make a mistake, so there weren't a lot of big shots down the field. It was very conservative game planning, so it was a tough from an over perspective, but a pretty good game overall. Troy got the winner. I think you had Troy, right?
Yeah, I had Troy plus 1.5, and then by game time it went to Troy plus 3.5, which is typically an awful sign. So
yeah,
I was like,
the wrong way.
Yeah, I was entering that game, and I'm like, damn, that line moved 2 points. I'm like, what did I miss? Like, this is not good. I was getting ready to put a tweet out like, well, this is gonna be a loser, but I didn't want to jinx anything. And like, obviously Troy pulled it out, but it was an ugly win. Like, I walked away just don't want to be too bragging about it, but take your W and just move to the next one. And we got it. So.
Yes. Good winner there for you. We also had that Bahamas Bowl that day that you mentioned. UAB winners 24-20 over Miami of Ohio. Tough start to the slate there for the MAC. We love the MAC, but it wasn't the best start for them. Let's talk about some of the Saturday games. We had quite a few. Florida, Oregon State. This is one Beast and I both talked about. Oregon State being a top 25 team. Florida is a solid program, but they had a bunch of opt-outs. Oregon State dominated though, 30-3. It was a tough look for Florida. It just looked like they weren't really. It was kind of the practice squad out there.
Yeah, and we kind of said Pac-12, middle of the season, we were like, man, they deserve some respect. Like Pac-12 was really playing some good ball this year, and I think Pac-12 probably wanted to represent themselves.
Great way to start. Yep,
a little bit better because they've been pretty bad in bowls in recent years. So they dominated that one. Obviously, Florida wasn't up to full strength, but you lose 30-3. I mean, that's just an absolute domination. So good for Oregon State. We said they were underrated for a while this year.
We've been on them a lot.
Season on a high note,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been on them a lot this season. Oregon State, that is. They have some obvious flaws, but some good things coming in the pipe. I also want to say that I heard a rumor that that's the most likely landing spot for DJ Uiagalelei is Oregon State, which makes some sense when you start digging into it. That's all I want to say. Yeah. We had a couple surprising results this weekend too, like Cincinnati and Louisville. Cincinnati loses 7-24 to Louisville. And I think basically what I thought might happen happened, where Louisville said, you guys took our coach. We feel like we're the better team. We're going to go out there and dominate. And they kind of did.
Yeah, they're playing with a little bit of inspiration there. You have to, you know what I mean? It's probably a much more physical approach when you're Louisville and you're thinking, well, this is our old coach, whatever.
Yes.
But it also did matter that Cincinnati was on their backup quarterback, Evan Prater. It's no disrespect to Prater. I think he might be a very good college quarterback at some point at Cincinnati, but he didn't even win the starting job to start the year after they had kind of hyped him up as this big recruit. And then you said all year behind Ben Bryant, even though he's gotten some snaps in and out, it didn't look like he was comfortable back there, or at least not comfortable enough, so the offense was struggling a lot.
I would say the same. It's going to be interesting to watch Cincinnati. The next time we watch them play, they'll be a Big 12 team.
Yeah.
This was a good opportunity for them to get this new quarterback in there. I think it's a little early to call, if he's going to be a bust or not.
Yeah.
A lot of time left. But yeah, the next time we see Cincinnati, they're a Big 12 team. Let's keep moving down the slate. This is a winner I had. Fresno State beat Washington State 29-6. Not a ton to say just because Fresno kind of dominated. I had Fresno -4. They played really, really well. Jake Haener was pretty good. The running game was amazing with Mims. So just a good win for Fresno State. Good program win.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a double dip there because I got the under on that one as well. And part of me almost put that under too, like in our pod parlay. So
that would have been a better game for us to pod parlay. I'll admit, since we both won our picks.
it is what it is. We can't be too upset. We've had plenty of winners on the pod parlay too. So we'll get it back later this week. But no, it was a really good defensive performance from Fresno. And we kind of said that was part of the reason of both why you liked their spread and why I liked that under so much, was just sometimes when their defense, was really, really clicking, just it was hard to score on them in the Mountain West. And they really just imposed their will last weekend. And it was a nice performance from that defense. Because like Jake Haener had a good game, but putting up 29 points was like, whatever for him. It's whatever. It was good, but the defense I thought was what was really impressive.
Yes. Defense definitely won him the game. Definitely, I would agree with that. And you put your name all over that, and you're right. You said that you love Fresno's defense. You were all over it. Let's keep moving down the slate. Another winner I had. This was my in the weeds play, kind of. Southern Miss beats Rice 38-24. That felt like a good winner. Felt like we kind of had it pegged right. Southern Miss is not a great team, so they tried to fumble the bag for us, but we were able to get a winner there. So that was nice. I don't think you had a play on that one, right?
I don't believe so. No, I don't.
Let's talk about a win that did go your way. BYU beats SMU 24-23. You were all over this BYU team here, even with the news that the quarterback was potentially out. You get a winner. This was a good bowl game, though.
It was, and I said all week, I'm like, without Jaron Hall, like, what is BYU gonna do? But it just felt like there was still enough pieces on that BYU team, and they still had a lot to play for. Because at one point, I remember making my one big take saying, "Oh, BYU could run the table."
It was like week 3 to be fair.
Yeah, it was like week 3 to be fair. Yeah, they were like 3-0 or 4-0, it looks really bad now, but hey, we can't have all the best takes. But I remember saying that and thinking like, man, they're going to be really good. And then they just really fell off. So I almost feel like they picked up some steam towards the end of the year, and maybe they
Yes.
felt like we do want to kind of play for some of the respect on our name, because
Yeah.
at one point they were supposed to be, CFP potential, and then they lost it all, and then they tried to come back. So like they had something to play for, it felt like, you know what I mean? Which is
No
weird
doubt.
because a lot of these teams don't.
Yeah. No, and it's an interesting story. Got to keep our eye on BYU. Always an interesting club just because, the setting of BYU, some of these players are going to be like nearly 30 years old by the time they're on their senior
Yeah.
year at BYU. So that man strength hits a little different sometimes. Let's move down the slate. We got one more game to talk about. Boise State, North Texas. This was the pod parlay. We had Boise State minus 10.5 and the over. Let's give credit to Beast because the over was the play. He nailed it. I was worried about North Texas scoring enough points. They scored plenty. To be honest with you, Boise's kind of lucky they came out with this win, man.
Yeah, they really are, and it wasn't necessarily that you were wrong, if I'm being honest. I
Yeah.
just think Boise didn't play their best ball.
There's no doubt. Yeah.
I thought they would for sure play better. Like, and maybe I'm wrong by making this statement, but I think if they play that game like another 10 times, like I wouldn't be shocked if Boise does cover that spread in a few of those spots.
Yeah.
They just
We
I
needed
don't
a player
know.
or two to go our way.
Maybe
Yeah.
a couple, maybe a couple weeks off wasn't necessarily good for them. Like sometimes a little bit of time off kind of gets you out of a flow. I'm not really sure, but I thought Boise's offense was awesome. Like that's what we wanted. Like we expected that. I thought their defense was a lot better than this. I remember like talking about them in the preseason saying if they win the Mountain West, like it's going to be because of their defense.
Yes.
And I don't know, man, that's not the same defense I thought. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like,
I know.
so-
Yeah. They definitely didn't have a great day. One thing I learned kind of from this taking it away is there's a lot of opportunities for overs. I feel like sometimes it feels like we get in kind of the drone of just taking an under on every one of these neutral site games, but there was some good offense over the weekend. Another game that went down Monday, not a lot of people saw it probably, was the Myrtle Beach Bowl. So it was actually played at Coastal Carolina, but it was Marshall at UConn. Marshall was up, I think 28-0. UConn scored 2 straight touchdowns to make it interesting, but 28-14 is your final. I had Marshall plus 12.5. I don't even know if I tweeted it out, but I was talking to the boys about it. I liked it. It was a midday game and we didn't win, which was tough, but what are you going to do? That was college football. You have anything to sum it up kind of?
No, not too much. I think with that UConn play that you were talking about today, if anybody got that live, obviously, like because UConn.
Oh yeah, you
right,
could have got a
went down.
huge number.
Yeah, I'm sure those people were happy, but UConn just turned it on too late. Like that's all I would say for that game, really.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There was a ton of opportunities. I mean, UConn, it's hard to say this in a game where you were down 28-0, but they could have won that game. 14 of those points were directly off turnovers. One was a pick six, one was a turnover in the red zone. And anyway, it could have went a lot different. Let's talk NFL if you're ready. We had a great NFL weekend that started off Thursday night, 49ers Seahawks divisional game. Ended up being a good one. I had an underdog under teaser, hit that. 49ers win it 21-13. They basically have won the West in the NFC now.
Yeah, no, 49ers look great. They're playing how we probably expected them to play, I guess. It's different because we expected them to be really good this year, but we didn't expect it with Brock Purdy at quarterback. We didn't expect McCaffrey to be their running back. Like all of these things were so much different in the preseason. We knew they'd be good. We just didn't know like how it would all come together. And I don't know, man. Brock Purdy looked pretty comfortable there. Obviously, McCaffrey's doing great. The defense is elite. They got 10 wins right now, which is what their total for the season was at prior to the year. And I said I really liked over 10. So we just need one more for that little preseason winner. But I like 49ers, man. They're playing some really good ball and got to be happy for Brock Purdy. Like last pick in the draft, there's a lot of storyline there,
Absolutely, man. And I mean, yeah, you gotta love the way some of our takes have aged on the show. Now we've had some bad ones too. But dude, a couple of these takes have been spot on. I don't really know where to start with the NFL. We had the Saturday, so there's an obvious one on Saturday. Colts
Mhm.
were up 33-0 at half against the Vikings. I was trolling with our friends that are Vikings
Oh yeah.
fans. I said, like, Vikings money line live, let's go. And I did sprinkle it. My main play was on the live spread at the time, which was double digits, I want to say. The Vikings came all the way back in the second half. They win at 39-36 in overtime. They win the North. Shout out to them. We were hoping for this really big meme of the Lions winning the North becoming a reality, but sadly it didn't happen. Vikings win it late in OT. Colts, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just crazy that Matt Ryan, he was the 28-3 guy. Now he's the 33-0 guy. Just wild.
Yeah, that was it was a wild game. I was watching that game on my phone, and then I just was like, yeah, this game's over. And I ended up like watching one of the bowl games, and I just was kind of doing stuff around the house. And then next thing you know, it's like you look up and well, there's one score, there's two scores, there's
Yes.
three, and they just kept going. Incredible win for the Vikings. Gotta love the resilience. Gotta love that they fight for their coach like that. And there's
Yes.
a lot to be said about that. When you're a team that's entering the playoffs, you need that kind of fight where you're never going to give up in a game. Like it inspires me, and it makes me feel like the Vikings should make some noise. As much as people talk crap about like the point differential and everything, when you got a team that's never going to be out of a game like that, that's hard to beat.
Yes, absolutely. It was just wild. We had our good friend Kyle there as well, which was really cool. Shout out Coda Capper Kyle. I didn't even think about that, but he saw the greatest comeback in NFL history, the record, everything that goes along with it. Love to see it for those fans. We had another game in the afternoon, Browns, Ravens. We're not even going to talk about it. Browns do get the win 13-3. Let's talk about Bills Dolphins, though. That was the Saturday night game. Kind of all eyes were on that. Sadly, on NFL Network. Let's talk about that for just a half second. All three of these games are on NFL Network. Poverty. I get NFL Network, so I didn't care. But it was just like I was thinking about you and other people. How are you going to expect it? This game was great. Bills Dolphins
Yeah.
was insane. Bills win it 32-29, last second field goal. We're going to talk about that whole game, no doubt. But it was crazy. It was on NFL Network.
Yeah, the way that I look at it with the NFL Network thing is it's one thing if you want to do like the 1 o'clock and the 4:30 games, at least for like
Yes.
Eastern time zone, 1 o'clock and 4:30 games. But if you're gonna do the primetime game and it's Dolphins Bills, like put that one on Fox, put it on
Let's see it.
CBS,
Yeah,
like
let's see it
whatever
on
you guys got to
primetime.
do, like that's what you're gonna need to do that, and they didn't. Not sure really what their plans are. If there's any, obviously there's a ton of Saturday games coming up this weekend, so I don't think there's going to be any issues there. But like, if there's more Saturday games coming up in a couple weekends from now, like, it's frustrating that they're kind of just selling out for the deal. But that's besides
Yeah.
the point. I thought that was an outstanding game. Buffalo, once again, man, just they always seem to pull it off, and there's
They
something
do.
special about teams like that they have that magic. You know what I
It,
mean?
it it was a magic kind of game. I was all over Bills money line, which was really juiced, and Bills -7. I thought it was pretty interesting. So late in the game, it's 29-29. It's been a heck of a ball game. It's snowing like crazy. The Bills were given an opportunity to just score a touchdown. The
Yeah.
Dolphins were trying to let them score. They intentionally knelt it down to kick the field goal, which it worked out. Can we think about that for a minute, though? The Dolphins would have had like 3 seconds to score a touchdown. Instead, you opt for a kick where it's icy and snowy. It's been snowing all day. It's like freaking single-digit degrees. I was a little salty because if I would have pushed that bet, I would have won the gambling feed contest. Ended up losing
Ooh,
that by zero point 0.4 units. So I would have easily won if that had pushed. But
yeah.
tough. But I don't know. I was just interested. Did you have a take on that at all? I know you weren't on Bills plus or -7, so you
No,
probably
not
weren't
necessarily.
really thinking about that.
Yeah, not necessarily, but you're right. That would have definitely factored in a lot different, and it would have made a difference for a lot of people out there. So I'm sure
Yes.
like you're not the only one that was thinking that at the end of the game, and it's unfortunate. I had the under in that game, so like that thing was over so easily,
Oh yeah.
um, which kind of was not like you were making the point that you were like, man, like we've really hit on a couple of these plays. I did not hit on that play. That was
No, that
probably
one
my
wasn't a
worst.
good one.
That was probably my worst bet of the weekend. And I thought, well, the snow and the Bills defense. Nope, nope, nope. It was just everything was wrong there. But it's okay. You can't win them all.
We can't win them all. We had a winning weekend, and it
did.
was not only a winning weekend, but if you tailed both of our picks, man, you had a great weekend.
Yeah.
So we can't complain too much. So now we have to move to Sunday because Sunday happened, and we're still a lot of games. Bye weeks are done with. I was scrolling down on ESPN, and the first thing that greets me, and I guess we should lead off. Jaguars beat the Cowboys 40-34 in overtime. There was a tipped interception that went for a pick six in overtime. Cowboys, they gave up a ton of points. They were up 17 maybe in the fourth quarter. I missed a lot of this game, which thankfully I was out shopping. It's the Christmas season, so you're out getting Christmas gifts. I missed a lot of it, but I was in the mall in the fourth quarter. So I was pushing the kid in the stroller. I had my phone sitting in the little cup holder thing, and there's a million people in the mall. So you're just like every 2 seconds buffering. I'm texting my buddies, keep me updated. It was a very tough one to lose. As a Cowboys fan, as you know, spoiler alert, we ended up making the playoffs anyways. So this one would have been fun to win just because it would have made the race for the NFC East interesting next week. Unfortunately, it's not very interesting now with the Eagles having a two-game lead now. But shout out to the Jaguars. They can still make the playoffs, so that would be kind of a cool story. Heck of a game for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, big win for the Jaguars when you think about their playoff hopes. They're kind of trying to do exactly what the Lions are trying to do right now, which is just come from behind and everything. But you're right. Dallas was up 27-10 with 5 minutes left in the third. So you hate to see the defense kind of break down like that because for, 2.5 quarters of football, you'd played really, really good football. And they kind of just – I don't necessarily know, like, what the specific issue was that was, like, really breaking down in the defense. But they really did kind of just slip up, especially in that fourth quarter, obviously. It is what it is. The tipped pass for the interception, the touchdown, and, like, OT, like, that – what are you gonna do? Like that kind of stuff, like that doesn't happen very often. So it is what it is. But Dallas will get it back. Maybe this is kind of like you take this loss and it kind of wakes you up because we just gave up 40 to the Jaguars. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Maybe you need a loss like that because Dallas's defense has been great this year. They haven't looked like this all year. So maybe
the last 2 weeks they've really slipped up. So maybe this is kind of the wake up call. They've got the Eagles coming to town next weekend. Did want to mention, probably just because we won't talk about it a ton, but the Eagles got a win on Sunday. They beat the Bears 25-20. They looks like going to be resting Jalen Hurts next week, which hurts my fantasy chances. I'll tell you that right now. But that's just something that happens. The Eagles have locked up the NFC East, so no reason really to play. Although I will say, this is going to be Cowboys favored big in Dallas, but when you start resting starters 2 weeks before playoffs, and you're going to have a bye, I'm not sure I love that strategy. We'll see how it works out for him. But, man, you're getting your guys a lot out of rhythm. Did you have any thoughts on Eagles-Bears before we kind of moved on down the slate?
Closer game than I thought, obviously. You got an 8.5 point spread. I figured the Eagles would just roll. I thought they could win that and cover that spread by like 10.
It was a look-ahead spot for both the Cowboys and the Eagles, kind of looking ahead. And the Eagles kind of finished their test off. The Cowboys failed at the last second. It's tough. Let's go to the Lions right now, man, because they are my favorite story in the NFL right now as a bandwagon fan. So for people keeping up at home, I'm a Lions fan, I'm a Bills fan, and I'm a Cowboys fan. Honestly, this season, it's been fun to follow those teams. And Lions got a great win on the road at the Jets, 20-17. Jared Goff came in big in that fourth quarter, the final kind of drive there. I know you were at the bar with the Lions fans. So what was your kind of experience?
Well, I'm going to get into the bar experience, but PG, I got one song I got to play for you. And this is from a Detroit rapper named G-Mac Cash, baby.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear it, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you can hear it. Maybe you
just
can't.
Barely, but we got the point.
Maybe I should have blared it, but yeah, no. Maybe we can like dub it in. I'm not sure if we can do that. Maybe we're not that technical, but he's basically.
I'll write it down. 24-27.
Yeah. There you go. He's a rapper in Detroit, and he's got this song, and he goes, "The Lions won again," and then it's like, "Bitch, the Lions won again." Like he's got like a bunch of stuff. It's just like I don't know, man. He makes all these spoof Detroit songs, but anyways, getting to the Lions, man. Awesome win. We kind of said it on the show. I said, man, they have to get this win because the playoff chances kind of stop if you don't get this win on the road against the Jets. I knew it was going to be a tough matchup. I had a feeling it might go that way too, where you need to grind it out. It was a gritty win. Kind of exactly what we expect right now out of Dan Campbell and these guys, that he's just getting them to never kind of give up, really dig in deep in the fourth quarter. And the best part about that win, getting into like the stats, obviously I felt like the Lions played really well. Defensively, they were awesome. But the biggest thing I think I loved out of that win was on that final touchdown drive was they threw a pass to Brock Wright, that tight end, and he dropped it. And it probably would have been like a 20-yard pass, at least probably 17, 18 yards. He probably had a good 5-10 yards after the catch coming up, and he just dropped it. It was right in his breadbasket. And what do? They get to a 4th and inches, and they go back to this guy after he just dropped a wide open pass. They just had the trust that this backup tight end, who is TJ Hawkinson's second fiddle all year, they just were like, you know what, we're going to trust our second-year tight end, throw it to him on 4th and inches instead of running the ball up the gut like anybody else would, and he ends up housing it. So it just a lot of magic kind of coming out of the Lions right now, and them playing meaningful December football is something I haven't talked about in a long time. So that's why you hear that excitement in my voice, because it's been a long time since they played that. Just playing games, like we're coming up on a Christmas Eve game where they're playing the Panthers, and like it being meaningful, everybody in Detroit's like, dude, what are you doing Christmas Eve? Like, we're getting together for the game. You know what I mean? And like, it's been a long time since we're that deep in December and we're talking about meaningful football. So it's a fun time in Detroit right now, man.
Yeah, as a longtime Detroit Lions fan, I'm feeling great about this. Did want to note, so they have the Panthers on Christmas Eve, as you noted. On New Year's Day, they play the Bears at home, must win those two. And then at Packers. So we'll just see what that game ends up meaning. Packers are at halftime up, I think, 10-6 on the Rams. So they're a full game, behind the Lions. So we'll just have to see how that works out. Right now, if you look at the NFC picture, the wild cards, the Dallas Cowboys are going to have the sort of the higher seed of the wild cards. Then you've got the New York Giants at 8-5-1. And the Commanders in there 7-6-1. That tie is going to end up being a big deal because they are a half game ahead of the Lions at 7-7 and the Seahawks at 7-7. What should be noted is the Seahawks have a win tie break over the Detroit Lions because they beat them head to head. What was that, like week 2 or something? So It was early on in the season. But so right now the Lions, they got to win out probably, but I give them a great shot too. They've been hot as anybody in the league right now. So I love it. Falcons Saints went down as well. Saints got it done 21-18. That was a good win. We were both on the Falcons, right? I had them in a teaser, but you were on Falcons plus 4.5, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I actually ended up doing it plus 4, just because it ended up like breaking like that 4. Before. But still, they went for a 2-point conversion late in the game. Yeah. They went for a 2-point conversion late in the game, and they ended up getting it. And I was like, thank God they got it. Yeah, man, like as much as I think Tampa Bay stinks, like I'm not saying the Falcons or the Saints are any better. Like none of these teams are good. But this was a perfect opportunity to take a divisional matchup and say, okay, like Falcons can cover this. I thought they would play well with Ritter in, and the whole team looked all right, like
especially in that second half. That's when they started to pull it back together.
And their running back, Tyler Algier. I think that's how you say it.
BYU.
BYU kid. He just looked awesome. Like I want to say he busted out like 100 and something yards on like 10, 15 carries. Like he looked efficient. He looked good. I think they got something special there with him and Cordero. They're just kind of running it all out there.
Yes. Cordell Patterson, fantasy football legend. Did want to note, so this is the NFC South right now. You brought up a great point. So it's the Buccaneers in first place in that division at 6-8. You've then got the Carolina Panthers at 5-9, Saints at 5-9, and Falcons at 5-9. So like anything could happen here.
Yeah.
As a Cowboys fan, most likely we're going to match up with whoever wins the South. I really don't want it to be Tampa Bay. We can mention it. Tampa Bay got ran over this weekend by the Bengals 34-23. Buccaneers started hot. The Bengals just finished the game so much stronger. I don't want to play the Buccaneers. Tom Brady has never lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Great win for the Bengals, though. They've basically locked up the AFC North. That's what it is, the AFC North. So, yeah. Do you have any thoughts on Bengals Buccaneers? I thought the Bengals, especially in that second half, that's like OG Bengals.
Oh yeah, no, they dominated. They what was it, 31? Yeah, 31 unanswered in the second half.
31
which is just
unanswered.
ridiculous.
They won the
man.
second
Like,
half 31-6.
Like that's crazy. Yeah, 31-6. So I guess I shouldn't say unanswered, but yeah, 31-6. That's a dominant performance. If they could keep that up, obviously we keep saying that. I feel like we're saying that kind of each week is like if the Bengals can play their best ball, like they're great. They're great. So
Yeah.
Bengals
best we've already seen. It took them all the way to the Super Bowl. So if they can do that again, I mean, I want to say the defense is playing better. They didn't have their greatest first half ever, but that second half was really nice for them. So a great win. Let's look a little further down the slate. Steelers beat the Panthers 24-16. This was a tough loss for the Panthers because if they'd have won this, they'd have been tied there for the division lead, but they're still alive because that division is a joke. We don't have much to say on that, I don't think. One result that was interesting was Chiefs and Texans. The Chiefs do beat the Texans in overtime 30-24. If you look at the yardage in this game, it's crazy. The Chiefs dominated, but Texans found a way to get to OT. For anyone that was on Texans plus 14.5, you were on the right side.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row now that the Texans have just put these scares into, teams. Because with Dallas and then obviously with the Chiefs, I'm not sure. Like, is Houston kind of showing something for next year? Like maybe they have enough in place that
they've got the number 1 pick locked up, basically. So, I mean, I think it actually is locked up now.
Right. And it doesn't make sense for them being, what are they, 110-1, 111-1?
111-1.
Yeah. So like for them to be that record, maybe teams are just overlooking them. Yeah, 112-1. So maybe teams are just overlooking them at this point.
It's easy to do that.
We say that classic statement, any given Sunday. You could be 112-1 and almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime, who many people think are the best team in football this year.
Yes.
Yes. And for valid reason. So we'll see, man. Like, maybe they can rattle off a win here and kind of shock somebody a couple more weeks.
You never know. Yeah. I mean, it's the NFL for you. Another one of these kind of stinky games. The Broncos beat the Cardinals at home 24-15. Both teams were on backup quarterbacks, so not really much to say there. Let's talk about a couple just wild endings. And I think we'll start with the Titans and Chargers. It was 14-14. Chargers got a late drive way down the field. A great throw by Justin Herbert. They hit a kicker. It's Dicker, the kicker. He got the final 3 points there in that one. So the Chargers win it 17-24. And if you look at the AFC race right now, Chargers are slotted in there in the wild card. So this was a huge win for them.
No, huge win. Just a big fourth quarter out of the Chargers because that was a low-scoring game, gritty win.
Yes.
What was it? Yeah, it was 7-7 entering the fourth quarter. So
yes,
it was basically just like who can find a way to just put up. Literally, they put up 10 points in the fourth quarter and they won that game. But to think that that's all 17-14, it's probably not going to get it done in most situations, but. Give credit to the Titans too. Like that was still a pretty nice performance. They were on the road in that game. So I think that there's still something to be said about the Titans. I think the Titans, they were like first in that division.
Yeah, the AFC South.
I think they're 7-7 now. They've lost a couple in a row now, man. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy because they were like way ahead. I want to say they were like 7-4 at one point.
Yes. And now the Jags are only one game behind them.
Yeah, so it's been really, really wild. A lot of, like we said, a lot of these playoff races kind of getting a little funky now. I still think the Titans can pull it off. I still expect them to find their way into the playoffs, but they're making it tight, man. So shout out our guy Kyle. I think they'll get it going. Just kind of got to stay the course and have faith in the boys, man.
Yes, they're absolutely built for the playoffs if they can get there, and it's starting to get a little tight for them. Unfortunately, the other big ending we had was Raiders and Patriots. This was ridiculous. The Raiders are kind of alive in the wild card all of a sudden at 6-8. Okay, so the setting is this game was tied up 24-24. The clock's running out. It's kind of like a Hail Mary type moment. The Patriots run a draw up the middle with the running back. He flips it back to a wide receiver just kind of as a desperation thing. And I think the receiver thought, okay, we're just doing the lateral game. And he throws it all the way back towards Mac Jones, the quarterback, throws it right to a Raiders defensive lineman who stiff arms Mac Jones into the ground and goes all the way. The Raiders win at 30-24. Tough loss for the Patriots. Raiders get a much needed win there at home. Just a ridiculous ending, though.
It was absolutely nuts. So the picture of like what had happened in that game, like what was going on, was so my dad was watching some of the highlights of the Lions game. He hadn't seen the finish, so I was over with my brother. It's me, my brother, and my dad. And we're just sitting on the couch. He's watching the highlights of the Lions game, and I got like on my phone because I'm like, why won't you let me watch the Raiders game on TV? You know, I'm like, this game's about to go to overtime, so I'm watching it on my phone, like whatever. And I like just turned to my brother, and I'm like, dude, you're not going to believe just the most ridiculous thing happened. Because I'm like yelling, and he's like, what's going on? What's going on? I'm like, dude, like the most ridiculous thing. He's like, what? He's like, did somebody throw like a pick six to end it? I'm like, no, dude, like better, honestly. Like, I was like, it's been a long time since I've seen something like that. Just
it was a college play.
Just because like, one, it was very, very, very silly. Like Bill Belichick never kind of makes that kind of a decision, I feel like.
Yes, that's why I said I think it's just on the receiver at that point. It was like, I guess we're doing laterals, even though the game's tied. I'm gonna throw it backwards.
It was very, in my opinion, it was very unnecessary, and that I could kind of see in my head. I'm like, I don't know if they realize, like every once in a while in college, you'll see like one of these plays that kind of just goes back, like where the defense picks it off or something and returns it, and I'm like, you never know. Like weird things happen on laterals sometimes. Like we've seen so many times where like a spread doesn't cover because something like that.
Yes.
So I was like, I wonder if that would happen here. And then of course it did. So good for the Raiders. Like they deserve a good win like that because they've had some pretty brutal losses.
They've been on the wrong side of that type of thing a lot.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So a good win for them. Shout out B Russ. Even though today he said I look like Elon Musk and I don't know if I'll ever recover. Like I don't know.
That was a tough one. That was tough.
I'm still thinking about it. I'm still rattled. Let's talk about the last NFL game, Sunday Night Football. The Giants beat the Commanders 20-12. I was on the underdog under teaser again. I wish I'd have been like underdog money line and under teaser because that would have hit as well. Or under, I guess under just straight up the parlay. Good win for the Giants. Not quite sure how they won, but both teams are still like, I guess, technically in playoff position. What are kind of your thoughts? Because I know as a Lions fan, you were going through some things.
So basically my thoughts are just, I would be more worried about the Commanders than I would the Giants. So like, I'm okay with the Giants having that extra game because they're at 8 wins now. And then the Commanders are still just sitting at that 7. I would be more worried about the Commanders than I would the Giants, which is weird because the Lions game with the Giants was closer. We have, like you said, we have the tiebreaker over both them. We just need them to lose some games. Yeah. So they beat the Giants and they beat the Commanders. So we have the tiebreaker over them, but they both still have like a lead. So it's like a half game lead for Washington.
Yes.
And then I guess what would it be, like 1.5 for the Giants? Regardless, we need them to lose some games. So we need the Eagles to step up.
Let me read through these team schedules. So the Commanders have at 49ers, who I believe are still playing at least one more game, right? They don't have that division. No, they do have that division locked up. So they could technically rest some guys. We hope not. Then they're at home against the Browns. They're at home against the Browns. Browns really aren't playing for much. And then they're at home against the Cowboys, who at that point might have a spot locked up. But they're the less likely team to I feel like to jump over the Lions. And then we look at the Giants. So the Giants have at Vikings, who have won the division, but maybe they want to. They're still playing for the 2 seed exactly, or potentially even the 1 seed, I guess. Then they're at home against the Colts. Colts are kind of finished, but maybe they kind of play an underdog role there. And then they're at the Eagles, who the Eagles will have the division. So they're going to win that game because the Eagles will be the backup Eagles.
Never know. Hey, maybe little Gardner Minshew magic, baby.
It
We
should
need
be
that.
Gardner Minshew, so at least you've got an above-average backup going for you. So we got lots to play for here late in the NFL season. It's going to be an absolute wild ride to the end. Do you have any final thoughts on the NFL?
No, not necessarily. I'm just excited to see how these next couple weeks go. Because I know it's not just for the Lions fans. It's for Washington fans. It's for the Giants fans. Like,
lots at play.
Think about some of these teams that it's been a long time since they've played meaningful December football. It's exciting, and I'm excited for teams like the Jaguars who are fighting for that spot. I'm excited for, even to be honest, the Vikings, as good as they are this year. It's been a while since the Vikings have been that good. Lot of exciting stuff. It's not the same 5 teams that are in the NFL like that are dominating year in and year out, so it's cool. It's cool.
Absolutely. So let's transition. We got some midweek bowl games going in college. We're going to give them to you real quick. We've got a couple plays on these as well. So we're going to go Tuesday through Thursday because then you'll have an episode come out Friday morning. Beast and I will be like the Christmas episode. We'll be giving you a handful of games. It'll be great. But so we do have 2 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, 1 on Thursday. Let's start with on Tuesday. We got Eastern Michigan at San Jose State. It's the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Expect some content from Potato Gobbler on that one. I don't have a play on it as of right now. Just did want to mention San Jose State, 3.5-point favorites. I checked it. Not a lot of opt-outs, things like that. So it should be a full-on bowl game there for the Potato Bowl. I love the freaking Potato Bowl. And then we've got Liberty at Toledo. Excuse me, not Liberty at Toledo. This is Liberty Toledo at Boca Raton, Florida. This is the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. So that's a mouthful. It's
Boca
the game,
Raton.
though. I think you have a play on this, so I'll let you speak. But right now, Eastern Michigan, 3.5-point underdogs, over under of 52.5. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I'm looking at this one, and I'm looking at whether it's 3.5, whether it's 4. I just grabbed it at 4. So, like, when you hear this, you're probably going to want to take it as soon as you can. As long as you can get it above 3, like I'd say it's a good play.
That's a key number.
We're going to take Liberty plus 4 is what I got it at. Plus 3.5 is fine, too. This just has everything to do with you mentioned it earlier with Miami of Ohio. I don't think the MAC is that good of a conference. Yeah. And I hate to say that because I love watching the MAC. I just don't think that they're all that good. Toledo in that MAC championship, some people are like, well, man, like they looked good against Ohio. I didn't think they looked that good. That was a very ugly. It was a very ugly game.
Really ugly.
Their quarterback, Finn, he looked a little bit better in that championship, but this just feels like too many points. And sometimes it's as simple as that, is I just think you're going to give me a team in Liberty that I don't think is bad, and you're going to give me 3.5, 4 points. I'm going to take it. I just don't think Toledo is that much better. Too many points.
I like it, and I do want to defend Beast here a little bit because I wanted to jump on Toledo looking at this. And then I looked at – here's a couple things. So the reason this line is this way is Liberty was absolutely destroyed by New Mexico State, their final game it was right when they found out their coach was leaving, all this stuff. Look into it now. They have their new coach picked out. It's Chadwell from Coastal Carolina. He's a great coach. That's positive for them. All 3 quarterbacks are healthy this week and in the lineup. That's the main 2 things you got to look at. I stayed away. I'll probably end up tailing Beast for a half unit, or we'll see. But
right.
That's just so
gives
everyone
you some
knows.
Action. Yeah, it gives you some
action. And yes, Liberty's overall roster should be better than Toledo's. And now they've got their starting quarterbacks back. The vibes are getting a little bit better. We shall see. We have the Arnell Carriers New Orleans Bowl, Western Kentucky at South Alabama, going down on Wednesday night. Neither one of us, I'm pretty sure, have a play on this. I did want to mention that South Alabama is 4.5-point favorites, over under 56. Stay tuned to the timeline. We may come up with something for that game. You never know. This is the one, though, on Thursday night. I think both you and I have a play on. Baylor at Air Force. It's the Armed Forces Bowl, 6:30 p.m. It's a 4-point spread right now, over under a 43. I'll let you kind of start with your play, and then I'll go into mine after.
So I'm looking at this game, and I'm looking at the weather. And typically you wouldn't be looking at the weather in Fort Worth, Texas. I don't claim to be like a Southern boy here. That's our guy PG.
Yeah.
But I don't think it gets to 20 degrees down there much. So when it does, I'm going to jump on any opportunity I can to get, a Baylor team down in Texas and an Air Force team that runs the ball a lot. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take under 44 is what the line. It was at like 46.5 as of Monday morning. It's dropped down to 44 now. I think everybody's looking at that weather. I don't even know if it'll necessarily snow, but cold football is usually good for an under. I think it's going to be absolutely freezing. And the big, big, big thing, even bigger than the weather, is that Air Force is the slowest offense in the nation in plays per minute and seconds per play. And that a lot of that has to do with just they run a very slow offense, and then they just do that triple option like every single time. They run the ball a ton, and they take a lot of time in between each play. So, like, they don't run a fast offense. It's not like they're just hurrying up every time, and then they're just running the ball a ton, which is so good for an under. If Air Force's defense can kind of step up in that cold weather and they can just run the rock, we might get one of those games where it's just back and forth, and it's like who can hit the 20-point mark, wins the game. We see like a 20-17 type game. Like, that's kind of what I'm predicting here. I think this is an ugly game in the cold. They probably weren't expecting to be in Fort Worth, Texas and have a 20-degree game, but that's what we got. So we're going to take the under here.
I like it, man, because I'm thinking along similar lines. I'm actually going with Air Force plus the 4, and I'm sprinkling the money line plus 160 a little bit. This is the classic double dip. We may have to make a special pod parlay for this one, and I'm thinking along the same lines. First of all, if you look into Armed Forces in bowl games, their record is immaculate, especially against the spread. 4 points is a lot. It's a good football number.
Yeah.
But Air Force, I mean, they're not going to have any opt-outs. Everybody's going to be playing for their team. There's much more of a sense of pride, things like that with these Armed Forces type teams. Baylor's a good team. They're really close to home there in Fort Worth. There's a lot of supporters for Air Force too. It's not like the crowd's going to be just like insane green and, going crazy. I think the under's a good look, and I think Air Force plus the points is a good look with this running team. They're going to have some success running the ball. It doesn't matter for Baylor. It'd be different if this was a game that decided if they went to the Big 12 championship or not, but it isn't. So let's go Air Force plus the 4. Beast likes the under. We'll call it a pod parlay plus 273. Whatever it is. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's a little mini pod parlay, like get you prepped before the big Thursday. Nice little midweek pod parlay. I like that. And honestly, we got a couple of plays between the Liberty play that I got and the Air Force play that you got where it's just that classic hashtag too many points, man. Like, we got a couple plus 4s in there. And though we love those numbers, it seems to be very good to us.
Yes, that's a great place to be. Always pay attention when you're betting football on the number. Anything above 3 is obviously good. Anything above 7 is good, so on and so forth. Yeah. Stay with the boys. We've been hot right now, so be sure to subscribe, share this video, share this podcast, however you do it. We appreciate that a lot. We've been grinding through this season. We're kind of getting to an end, but it's been so much fun, and the boys are killing it with the picks, with everything going on. So we love it. We'll be back Friday morning, should be. We'll talk that out, but I think that's what the plan is right now. Yeah. We'll have a lot more bowl games for you. We'll preview kind of the playoffs going forward. And so that's it. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.
Peace out, guys.